Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage Eitel.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Mark Eitel and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. And friends, sit back, relax, grab your phone, grab your computer, be ready to text or email. Man, we have a great show lined up for you this week. We are going to encourage your participation, but guys, you're in the right place if you want the data, the answers to your questions, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, all the info that you need so you can make sense of this crazy real estate and mortgage world that we're in right now and go out and make better decisions for you and your family. Again, my name is Mark Eitel. This is the Mr. Mortgage Show where we always encourage your questions or comments. Just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. And Jen, my producer, is standing by, womanning the hotline. She'll get your questions on the air. Guys, if you prefer to shoot us an email, just head on over to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can shoot your questions over there as well. And guys, there's a lot of great info on mrmortgageradio.com. We are going to cover some of it today. But hey, before we dive in, I want to share an interesting, well, I find it interesting, hopefully you will as well, story about perspective. Because I think right now, there is so much confusing and negative news flying at us every day about politics, the economy, housing prices, interest rates, the recession, yes or no. It's nuts, and people don't know whether to scream or eat a banana. It's just crazy out there. So I want to share something that happened to me last weekend. You know, some of you know that we broadcast the show from our studios here in Martin County, Florida. And we get afternoon rainstorms this time of year. Some of them are violent downpours. So I'm setting the story up, right? Because Mrs. Mortgage and I have agreed to do a little more exercise in our lives. And we're trying to get out and walk and ride the bicycles. We live in an awesome area with beautiful natural resources. So we're kind of thinking, hey, let's get out. Plus, there's an awesome ice cream shop not far from our house. So I have a tendency to ride the bicycles in that direction and lead the pack over there so we can reward ourselves with an ice cream. Hey, what the heck? We're working it off. By the time we get back to the house, hopefully we're net even with the calorie intake. But here's the story I want to share. We were out riding, and you could kind of tell that the rainstorms were in the air, but I thought we had plenty of time to have a nice ride. Well, I was wrong. We got about halfway towards our destination, and here come the clouds, and gosh, man, did it open up. It was pouring. And I was being a grumpy old man, really upset with having to ride my bicycle in the rain. And we rode past a group of kids that were having a blast. They were stomping in the puddles and chasing each other around, and they could not have been happier. Man, the rain to them was a game. They were having a blast, and it really, really made an impression on me to the point that I kind of slowed down and almost stopped for a minute watching them. And then it took me back to my childhood where a splash in the puddles or a run in the rain was a blast. I mean, where the neighborhood I grew up in, each Thanksgiving weekend, all the kids would come out, and oftentimes it was a muddy, rainy mess, and we would play football, and we called it the Turkey Leg Bowl, and we would play in the mud, and if it was raining and muddy, it was even more fun. And then I thought about all the times growing up as a Florida hillbilly, if you will, with the four-wheelers out in the mud and just having a blast. And growing up surfing in the rain and really thinking about how what we focus on, what our perception of the event is truly changes what that means to us at the moment. So what I perceived as a negative, these kids reminded me that you could have fun, and we laughed the rest of the way home. And don't get me wrong, it was cold, but we had fun. We just, we're like, heck, we're out here, it's raining, there's nothing we can do. And we just kind of raced home in the rain laughing. And I think that's what's happening in the world of real estate and the economy right now. so many people are putting their head in the sand and they're just mad and they're frustrated and they're angry because they hear interest rates are up or housing volume is down or listing inventory is down. And they're walking around with their head hung in a defeated attitude. But guys, people are still winning. And I'm not suggesting that it's the right time for everybody at any given time to buy or sell real estate, but there are instances out there where it still makes a lot of sense. And we've been working with a lot of agent partners. You guys know that I support the Really Great Agent Network, and I've been helping craft seller-financed opportunities where people have a load of equity. Oftentimes their house is paid off. They want to make a move and downsize, but they don't want to sell their house, cash out all that equity, go buy a new house and have big bills associated with the new purchase. So we're looking at opportunities where they can sell their home and offer seller financing where they're holding a mortgage at often a very attractive interest rate from an income standpoint, right? Because you can get 7, 8, 9, 10% interest on a seller finance deal right now. And they're turning that equity into cash flow, because you hear me say it all the time. Equity doesn't buy groceries, cash flow does. So in some of these examples, people are taking the house they have, they're selling it, they're turning that into a cash flow instrument, an investment. They have maybe a 25% deposit that they've received from the buyer. Now they've got plenty of money to put down on the new property, and the cash flow that they're receiving from holding the note is paying for the new property. And that day in the rain kind of reminded me of that, because some people will look at this environment we're in where, and this is a staggering number, but I just posted this to the Facebook group this week, that the chief economist for Zillow said 70% of all U.S. mortgaged households have an interest rate under 4%. Which blew my mind. And I haven't had a chance to research the data, but I don't have a reason to doubt it either. So if that's the case, so many people are just kind of locked into their home, not really wanting to sell. But then another statistic was 23 or 28%, and I'll post this to the Facebook group also, of U.S. households have no mortgage. Well, those are the people that opportunities like this make a lot of sense for. And the low interest people can do lease options if they're owning the property and they want to go buy something else. Lease with an option to buy their property out. They can take a big down payment and use that down payment to go buy their property. So I'm sharing that only because I found it truly enlightening when those kids were playing in the mud puddle, to remind myself that it's really not what we're looking at. It's the lens, if you will, or the mindset that we're looking at it through. Because I really think if you have a property free and clear and you want to make a move, man, what an amazing opportunity to do seller financing and turn equity into cash flow. But anyway, guys, those are the musings of Mr. Mortgage this beautiful morning. So, guys, if you have any questions or comments, we're going to get you on the air as we keep the show moving. But you hear the music, you know what that means? That is my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We are going to be back with more of the show, and we're going to dive into your questions.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. If you have questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the nationwide Anytime Hotline, and we call it that because when we're not in the studio, it goes to my office. So it rings right here today when we're on the air. But otherwise, that pushes to my office. 855-462-7292 is the Anytime Hotline. Jen is womanning the hotline, and she will get your questions on the air. She just gave me the signal. Not that signal, guys. The other finger. She let me know that we've already got a question teed up back there, so I'm going to toss it to her in a minute. But If you prefer to shoot us an email, just visit mrmortgageradio.com. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's an email icon. If you click on that, you can shoot her your questions via email. She will read them on the air for you. But guys, thank you so much for bearing with me during that opening segment. I just wanted to share the circumstances that we are dealing with every day in our life. We can find opportunity in there. And I use that mud puddle example. I get it. Some people are just trapped in the mud puddle and there's no joy right now. And I totally understand. Guys, there is still more economic pain to come. I get that. Jerome Powell paused on the interest rate hikes last week, and then during the hearings this week really elaborated that inflation is not under control. It's easing, but more rate hikes are likely. And he gave a brilliant analogy. And you guys know I'm a car geek and a motorcycle geek and all of that stuff. So I found it fascinating because I believe it was a senator, asked the question. And guys, if you ever, and I don't care which side of the aisle that you're on, if you ever want to cringe, watch some of these hearings and watch the senators really do their best to sound intelligent and then expose themselves for not really having any idea what they're talking about. But anyway, this was a good question about the Fed's intent moving forward, right? Because everybody's a bit confused. You took your foot off the gas, yet you're telling us that you're going to stomp on it again. And he shared an interesting analogy and used traveling down the highway as an example. There were several 75 basis point hikes and then 50 basis point hikes and then 25. And now they've skipped one, but likely another 25 is coming or two if you believe all of the economists. And he said, if you're out on the highway going 75 miles an hour and your exit is coming, somewhere in the near future, but you're not quite sure where it is, you begin to slow down. And that's basically what he said they're doing. They're slowing down, but they're not stopping because they haven't reached their destination of 2% inflation yet. So I get it. It's a challenge out there. And we've talked about it in the past. We really talked about it a lot on social media during the week, that while inflation is down around 5% from its highs of around 9%, these are year-over-year numbers, so it's 5% higher than a year ago, which was 8% higher than the year previous to that. So we're still feeling the pain, and I didn't mean to discount anybody's pain because it's real. I just encourage people to not dwell on what they can't control and find the opportunity in the world that they currently live in. And that owner finance strategy where you sell your current home, hold the note, earn a handsome interest rate, and turn equity into cash flow so you can buy another property or use the lease option strategy. We're seeing that work well. And guys, if you have questions about that, I know it can become super confusing. We are happy to help. We've got a group of agents that are very well educated and disciplined in structuring deals like that, and I can help you understand it from both the seller and buyer's perspective. But anyway, I'm going to move along because your questions are my favorite part of the show. So let's toss it over to Jen for the first question of the day.
Paula sent us this. We recently inherited money from my father's estate. Our goal is to buy some rental properties. Can we use inheritance as a down payment with the landlord loan? Do you have any advice for what type of properties we should look for? Thank you. And thanks, Jen, for getting this on the air. Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, Jen, you are awesome. Thank you for keeping me on the air and keeping me moving. Awesome question, Paula. So yes, you can use your inheritance as the down payment with the landlord loan, depending on how recently you've gotten the money. If it's been in your account for 60 to 90 days, it's a non-issue. But if it's recent, we may need to document the source of it, but that's it. Not a problem using the inheritance as a down payment. And congratulations on buying investment property instead of a boat or an RV or a jet ski with that, because again, turning that cash into cash flow, I think is a brilliant strategy, especially as we continue to age as a population and Social Security is uncertain and what's going on with the stock market and how am I going to have a retirement income. Cash flow is an amazing tool. But yes, you can use inheritance. My only suggestion on what type of properties you would look for, I would need to know a lot more about your goals and how much the inheritance is to determine, what you could buy. I can share this, though. The underwriting guidelines for 1 to 4 unit properties are more liberal in the landlord loan world right now than 5 to 8 unit properties and beyond. And if you're just starting, beyond might be a scary place to start unless you partner with somebody who's, seasoned in that world, which is another good strategy. But 1 to 4 unit properties, because they can also qualify for primary residence mortgage programs. You can buy a 4 unit, move into one, claim it as your primary. And I know that's not your goal, but because that's possible, there's a high demand for those type of properties, because a lot of people are using what they're calling a house hacking strategy, and they're buying an income producing property as a primary residence. And what a great way to get started as a first-time buyer, right? Suddenly you've got 2 or 3 other people paying you rent. It certainly makes life a lot easier. And oftentimes you can live essentially free. And I don't want to discount the difficulty sometimes in managing a property and collecting rent. It's not always easy, but having that opportunity is a brilliant one. And because that exists as an opportunity, that 1 to 4 unit, you might find it easier to sell or refinance in the future. That would be my only suggestion. I hope that answered that question. And congratulations, man. Way to get started as a real estate investor. Way to go. Hey, guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That is my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight. On the other side of this very short break, we're going to be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, my name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, if you have questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Or visit MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. Click that email icon, and you can shoot your questions over via email. Hey, but speaking of your questions, Jen has been hard at work back there, and I know I went long that last segment, so let's rip through some of your questions with a rapid round. Hey, Jen, do you have one ready?
Monica is asking, I know you're always saying good things about an FHA loan, but when I talk to real estate agents, they say I should only try to get a conventional loan. I'm not sure what the difference is and why they are pushing me in that direction. Is there a downside to FHA?
Hey, that is a brilliant question. Man, this one gets me worked up because during the pandemic, never before have I experienced this to the level that we did during the pandemic buying frenzy. And I likened it to a lot of agents just not understanding the reality of the FHA, the VA, or the USDA loan. And a lot of them are clinging to very, very old misconceptions. And I think the newer agents just haven't been around long enough to experience a market where, FHA is a super valuable and super powerful tool. So let me share this. As a buyer, there is absolutely no downside to an FHA loan. Absolutely not. The rate is better by default. The interest rate on the FHA loan right now is trending lower than conventional. The underwriting guidelines are far more flexible as far as credit score or debt to income ratio, so it's easier to qualify, and it's easier to qualify for a larger loan amount. And lastly, the mortgage insurance component, which if you put less than 20% down, also exists in the conventional world, has been reduced significantly. So from a monthly payment standpoint, the FHA loan is an amazing opportunity, as is the VA loan and the USDA loan. And those three categories of borrowers really got pushed aside during the pandemic. And I don't know what the solution is to fix it. Actually, I do. I would not be opposed to a blind offer scenario where sellers did not know what your financing program or preference was. We would need to put some guardrails in place so that you were fully approved, So the seller's not putting themselves at risk of you not being able to close. But why should a matter of fact, a seller who won't accept an FHA, VA, or USDA offer is limiting themselves. And now as the market has contracted a bit and there are fewer people at 6.5% or 7% who want to go out there and buy, if I was a seller, I would be entertaining everybody's offer who was qualified. So this one gets me worked up. Most of it is because the agent might not understand and might have some misconceptions. And one of the big misconceptions about those loan products is the appraisal process. And they think it's more difficult. Well, as long as the house is in good shape, meaning no broken windows or torn screens or chipping paint or leaking roof, there's very little difference in the appraisal of a conventional or VA or USDA or FHA loan, with the exception of those safety or hazardous things that might be called out. If the handrail is missing off the stairs on a VA, that's going to be called out. But other than that, if the property's in good working order and habitable, there's almost no difference. And from the appraisal standpoint, it's the exact same calculations and the exact same comparables. So the value of a conventional appraisal versus the other ones should be the same if the same appraiser did each variation of it. So this one gets me worked up. I think you should fight for your right to FHA. I did a talk a long time ago, use the Beastie Boys soundtrack, fight for your right to VA, but it's also true with FHA and USDA. And if your agent's just completely pushing back, call me, use a different agent. I am proud to endorse the Really Great Agents Network. I'll find somebody for you and talk to them myself and make sure they totally understand the presentation process of an FHA, VA, or USDA loan. And if you have a great lender, have them call me and I'll let them know how we present the approval for a government loan borrower, because it makes a difference. So hang in there, keep making offers, and fight for your right to FHA. Absolutely. It's a brilliant loan program. Hey, Jen, toss me another one.
Terrence sent us an email. You were talking about a landlord loan a few minutes ago. Will that work if I work for myself and don't claim very much income?
Hey, Terrence. Yes, absolutely. So the landlord loan is going to look at your assets and your credit, not your income. We're looking at the income that the property produces. So as long as the incoming rent or the projected rent, if it's vacant, will cover the payments, then you're fine. But if your question is about a primary residence, because some self-employed borrowers may be thinking of like a no-income verification loan for buying a primary, it's a different animal. The landlord loan is only for rental properties, but there are programs with no income verification or bank statement income verification for self-employed borrowers. So I would need a little more information just to be clear exactly what your question is. But as far as the landlord loan is concerned, that would work well because we don't even have to review your income documents. We're looking at assets and credit on your side and income from the property. So, but brilliant question. Hey, Jen, do you have another question?
Jacob sent us this voicemail. I've been listening for a while, and I think a reverse mortgage may work for us. But I'm still confused about a couple of things. What happens if we decide to move into an assisted living community in a few years? Can we sell our house? Can we still leave the house to our son?
Hey, that's a brilliant question. I'm going to encourage a call off the air because the reverse mortgage, there's so much to talk about. I'd love the opportunity to walk you through it, but just to answer the questions that you've laid out. So yes, if you need to downsize in the future or relocate, you can sell the property. There's no prepayment penalty with a reverse mortgage. You could choose to refinance it in the future for whatever reason. If you had a ton of equity or you just wanted to put a normal mortgage back on the property, yeah, not a problem. No prepayment penalty associated with a reverse mortgage. And then as far as leaving it to your children when you pass, it's the same as any other piece of real estate that has a mortgage on it. The reverse mortgage is simply a lien, and they can refinance or sell the property to satisfy the lien. Then the property will transfer to them. It's exactly the same as any other mortgaged real estate. And they've got 12 months for the estate to settle the reverse mortgage, which is, usually more than enough time. So brilliant question. And on this topic, we have seen a big upsurge in interest from the senior community around the reverse mortgage product. So if anybody has questions, guys, if you haven't heard my story, I'm not going to bore you with it, but I got involved in reverse mortgages because a dear family member of mine was considering a reverse mortgage many years ago, and I wanted to learn everything about the process before she decided yes or no. So anyway, it's a brilliant loan program. It's a great tool, but it's only a tool. You know, like a hammer, I say it all the time. It's not right for everybody. It's a tool, but like a hammer, you can build a house with it or you can tear a house down. It depends on how you use that tool. So you need to move forward cautiously, but also know that people have never had this much equity in their property, and there's a lot of people taking advantage of that equity to lessen the burden of that mud puddle that I referenced earlier in the show, i.e. the economy, inflation, and just the overall expenses that we're all suffering through. So anyway, I hope that helps, and I would welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with you in greater length about that, but great one. Hey guys, you hear the music, you know what that means? That is my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to the Mr. Mortgage Show, your very favorite mortgage and real estate show of the week. Guys, we love doing the show. We always look forward to spending a bit of time with you, and thank you for your participation. Man, you've had some great questions so far. I swear we've got the best listeners in all of, I say talk radio, but at least mortgage and real estate radio. So guys, questions or comments, give us a call, shoot us a text, 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Jen is standing by, womanning the hotline, and she will get your questions on the air. Or shoot her an email, and you can do that by visiting mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and shoot her your question that way. And we're going to keep them rolling because we do have a stack of them back there. Throw me another question, Jen.
Ruth is asking, I'm going to call your office next week to apply for a rec refinance, but I'm wondering how much equity can we use to pay off the debts? Sorry if this doesn't make sense.
Hey, Ruth, don't be sorry. This is a great question and expertly crafted. You asked it perfectly. So guys, the REC refinance, REC, stands for reduce, eliminate, and consolidate. And even in this world of higher interest rates, people are doing the REC refinance and reducing their overall monthly expenses. So yes, in almost every case, their mortgage interest rate is going up, and certainly their mortgage balance is going up, but their monthly expenses as a whole are going down, and going down considerably in some cases. So I've had some amazing stories I've shared over the last few weeks with people who have capitalized on this REC refinance and even used a little bit of the equity to buy the interest rate down to make it even more palatable, which a lot of people don't realize, guys. You can use a buy down strategy on a refinance. It doesn't have to be just seller money on a purchase. So anyway, to answer your question, Ruth, great question. 80% of your property's value minus your current loan balance is what you would have available to you in the form of cash out equity. So if your property is worth $500,000 and your current mortgage is $300,000, you would take the $400,000, which is 80% of 500, and you've got $100,000 to pay the debt off with. So I hope that helps. 80% loan to value is where the cutoff for most of the cash out or REC refinance loans that are available right now. Now, with an equity line, you can go higher than that, but the equity line interest rate is not sexy anymore, and that rate is adjustable. And if you take Fed Powell at his word, there's more adjustments upward coming this year with increases in interest rates. So, but brilliant question. 80% is your answer. Hope that helps. If you need more info, just reach out. Hey, Jen, do you have another one? Okay, what do you have?
Alex sent us this. Is it possible to get a landlord investor mortgage in a company name? Can I have multiple loans in multiple companies? I might have different partners on different properties.
That was Alex. Hey, that, my man, is a great question. Yes, indeed, you can close the landlord loan in the name of a company. And a lot of people will form an individual LLC for each purchase, especially when there are partners involved. And the LLC might own only one property or a few properties, and you might be a partner in several LLCs. So to answer your question, yes, you can close in a company name, and yes, you can have multiple companies and multiple loans at the same time. So brilliant question. I hope that helps. And Alex, if you need more info, you can reach out. I'll walk you through details and answer any additional questions that you have. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Maura is asking, I'm a little embarrassed to ask this, but can I use a reverse mortgage to pay off my credit cards and still have no mortgage payment? Since my husband died, money has been tight and my credit cards are getting high. Thank you for taking my question.
Hey, Maura. Wow, man, this is the second or third reverse mortgage question this week. We might have to do a show dedicated just to this because it's so very misunderstood. And sometimes I'm reminded of how many people are really feeling the pinch of the inflation and the economic environment that we're in. So, Maura, great question. Yes, you can. You can use the proceeds from the reverse mortgage to pay off your credit cards. And I'm making some assumptions, right? You need enough equity in the property and be able to extract enough equity to accomplish all of this. But what you use that money for doesn't affect whether you have to pay it back or not, because part of your question was, and still have no monthly mortgage payment. So yes, people do this all the time. They'll do a reverse mortgage to consolidate debt and then benefit from the fact that they don't have to make another monthly mortgage payment. Now, you still have to pay your taxes. You still have to pay your insurance. If there's an association fee, you have to pay that as well. But the principal and interest piece of the mortgage payment, you don't have to make that monthly. That's satisfied when you move out of the property or you pass the property on to your children. So brilliant question, man. I'm sorry to hear that you are feeling the pinch. You're not alone, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you more about it because it really involves a lot of Q&A. You know what? While I'm thinking about it, guys, you can go to moreaboutreverse.com, or go to mrmortgageradio.com and hit that More About Reverse button. Moreaboutreverse.com takes you directly there. But request the booklet. I'll be happy to send it out. I think you'll find it answers a lot of the common questions, and it'll give you a base of information that you can then engage deeper conversations on when we talk. So anyways, I'm sorry to hear that, Maura. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little encouragement. And let's talk more about it when you're ready. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Nellie sent us this one. I watched you on YouTube talking about cash flow and equity. It makes a lot of sense. As a seller, you're suggesting we're better off to do a lease option. Is this correct? Can you explain this again? Thank you.
Hey, that's another great question. And I didn't realize I am a YouTube TV star. Who do you think you are? Sorry, I don't think I can ever make it through a show without singing. What is wrong with me? But yes, so what I was talking about in that video, and I alluded to it in the opening segment, is turning some of that equity into cash flow. And my new thing, and I don't know where it came from, I'm saying it a lot lately, is cash flow buys groceries, equity doesn't. But what I was talking about in that particular video was if you've got a mortgage on your property already, and you may have a super low balance, a ton of equity, and a very low interest rate, well, selling it with a wraparound mortgage or subject to financing, and there are people out there that will argue with me about this all day and tell me it's done every day, and the due on sale clause is never invoked by the lender. I say people speed every day, but that doesn't make it legal. If there's a trooper sitting there, you're going to get a ticket. One day, the lender is going to invoke that due on sale clause, because selling a property with a mortgage on it already, if you transfer the ownership to someone else and you hold the mortgage and you do what's called a wraparound mortgage, right? You collect a mortgage payment from your buyer and you pass a portion of it on to your current mortgage company. That's called a wraparound mortgage. That violates the due on sale clause. And I'm just conservative. I'm not comfortable with that. But a lease option is what I was talking about, and that satisfies everybody's goals and does essentially the same thing. Somebody can do a lease with an option to buy or a true lease purchase where a portion of their monthly payment is going towards a future down payment. And they can give you a down payment up front. You can use that down payment to go buy your next property. And then you've got the cash flow of the lease payment coming in each week. But these guys, these are the strategies I was alluding to in the opening segment, where one person sees rain and bah humbugs their way home on their bicycle, and the other kids see rain and they're out there having mud puddle wars and couldn't be happier. These are the type of strategies that we're seeing people employ and winning in this environment. So, brilliant question. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Yeah, I do have a face for radio though, right? Thank you for that. Guys, if anybody needs more information around any of this, just reach out to us. Guys, you hear the music, you know what that means. That is my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this super short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And man, oh man, you guys have been awesome today. I swear we've got the best listeners of all time. What a great bunch of questions so far today. If you've got questions or comments and you want them on the air, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's the Anytime Hotline, 855-462-7292, or visit MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Hit that email icon on the bottom of the page, and you can shoot your questions over to Jen that way. But speaking of Jen and your questions, I am going to keep this going. I know she's got some more back there. So, Jen, throw one my way.
Henry sent us an email. Last week, toward the end of the show, you briefly mentioned using a reverse mortgage for buying a house. How exactly does this work? Seems too good to be true.
Hey, Henry, it does seem too good to be true. Man, that is another reverse mortgage question. We've had a few today. Wow, sign of the times, right? I encourage anybody out there, if you are seeking more information about reverse mortgages, just check out moreaboutreverse.com. That's moreaboutreverse.com. Or go to mrmortgageradio.com. There's a big button that says More About Reverse, and request your info booklet. We'll shoot it over. You can go through it, and at very least, you'll have a base level understanding of the program and be ready to ask some really meaningful questions. But anyway, man, this is a great question. So I'm going to answer this by sharing a story. So there's a single woman, her husband's passed, the kids are long out of the house, grandkids don't even come to visit anymore. The house is worth $500,000, and she does not have a mortgage on the property. So she wants to move into the really cool 55 plus neighborhood, the bus that takes her to the organic grocery and the green market, and the pickleball courts are all right there. And she's like, wow, I'd really like to make the move, but I don't want to have a big mortgage payment. I just can't get my mind around how to make this work. So let's, for argument's sake, in this example, say she's selling a house for $500,000 and she's buying into this new senior community for $500,000, because those neighborhoods aren't as cheap as they used to be, right? So in this instance, because of her age and her equity position, she would be required to put 50% down. So she sells for $500,000. She puts $250,000 down on the new property. But more importantly, she puts $250,000 in the bank, which gives her tremendous peace of mind and the cushion that she doesn't have now. And the best part is she doesn't have a monthly mortgage payment on that $250,000 at, 7% or whatever the rate of the day is when she decides to make this move. Now, again, she has to pay the taxes, the insurance, and the association fees, but that big mortgage payment portion of it, she doesn't have to make. So that's how it works. You have to put enough money down to meet the equity requirement that you would, just like if you were doing a cash out reverse mortgage, or that's the traditional mortgage, reverse mortgage by most people's standards. You have to have enough equity in the property to make that work. It's the same in that you have to put enough money down to meet that equity requirement. But I hope that helps. That's the best example I can come up with on short notice that makes sense. And a lot of people are in that position right now. We talked about it earlier in the show. I think it's 23 or 28% of U.S. households don't have a mortgage. So if you're in that position, selling and holding a note, turning equity into cash flow like we talked about, or a reverse to purchase might make sense. But I'm sensing a tide shifting in mortgage and real estate, and a lot of attention in the reverse space and in the debt consolidation space. So I encourage anybody who wants to just start the journey, check out Mr. Mortgage Radio and click on one of those appropriate links. But I appreciate the question. Hey, Jen, throw me another one.
This one is from Chris. My wife and I are first-time buyers. I'm approved for a VA loan, but our offers keep getting passed over. I could get a regular loan, but I really want to use my entitlement. It feels like we're getting discriminated against. Do you have any advice? It all just feels wrong.
Hey, Chris, it is wrong. It is wrong. Fight for your right to VA. I say it all the time. I went into depth on this earlier in the show with the FHA example, and this is the same thing. People don't understand it. There's a ton of misinformation out there, and a lot of realtors just don't understand it. They're afraid of it, so they discourage it. And man, it sounds like your agent's fighting for you. If they're not, if somebody out there feels underserved, Really Great Agents is an amazing network. Check out reallyGreatAgents.com. But anyway, I don't want to turn this into that. But what I would encourage you to do is use that ready, able, and willing presentation technique. I'm happy to walk your mortgage guy through it. Or if you don't have a mortgage guy that you're loving on, we can do it for you. I think that makes a difference. Consider getting a conventional approval and presenting both and saying, listen, I'm approved. I could do this conventionally, but I want to use my entitlement. I get 100% financing, which allows me to keep all my money at work and other investments. I get a great interest rate, and I served my country. I'm entitled to this opportunity. But Mr. Seller or Mr. or Mrs. Listing Agent, if you're afraid that I'm not qualified, here's my conventional approval, but I want to use my VA approval, and they need to know that up front, because there's an addendum as part of the contract that specifies FHA and VA, because there are slight differences to the contract. But by showing them that you can go either way, you might dispel some of their fears or myths. But man, I would love to talk to you in length about this one, because I get worked up about it. FHA, VA, USDA buyers, you guys, you're not getting your fair opportunity, and it drives me nuts, because the type of financing you use should not be a criteria for acceptance of an offer. But anyway, I hope that helps, and I greatly appreciate that question. And thank you for your service, brother. Fight for your right to use your VA, because it is your entitlement. You earned that. It's not a gift. All right, I appreciate it. Jen, throw me another question.
Phil is asking, I'm selling my house without a realtor, and it's getting a lot of interest. Now, I think I priced it too low. Is it possible to get an appraisal even though it's already for sale? Also, what should I be asking buyers to know they are going to be able to follow through and close?
All right, Phil, you are speaking my language, brother. I haven't had a question like this in a long time. And this is how I got started in the business. The very first clients I served in the late 90s and early 2000s were for sale by owners, because you guys are soldiers, man. Congratulations on having the courage to go out there and go to war. And I get it right now. Finding the buyers is the easy part. And you might as well save that commission. I totally get where you're coming from. But now you're stuck. You're like, okay, well, what's the value of the property? We can help with that part of it. A free value report is something that we offer for our listeners. We use the value report every day in our practice to determine a pretty good idea of what a property is going to appraise for. It's not an appraisal, but you'll find it helpful. It'll certainly reinforce your price if somebody's questioning it. And we just did one this week for a for sale by owner. She's in Stuart, Florida. Awesome lady. And she was afraid that she had overpriced the house. And when we ran the value report, it was just the contrary. It's just underpriced. So she's now got the ammunition to support her value. So I'm happy to do that for you. But I would be asking them, are you fully approved? I would call the lender. Have they been underwritten? Do they have a DU or LP, automated underwriting approval? These are super, super important things to know because it tells you how far along the process they are, and they're not just out there looky-looing and they'll figure it out once they get it under contract. You'll know that they're capable of closing. But you know what? Give me a call or shoot me a text off the air and I'll give you some step-by-step ideas on what to ask, because we could go very deep on this topic. And I know we're running out of time because I see Jen jumping up and down back there. Uh-oh, I told you so. There goes the music. She's pulling the plug on us. Hey guys, that means we've wrapped up another week of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Man, oh man, what an amazing week. You guys have brought some wonderful questions to the show. Thank you so much for that. Hey, if you need us during the week, whether it's reverse mortgage questions, for sale by owner, the rec refi, everything that you need is at MrMortgageRadio.com. All my contact info, links to everything we talk about on the air. MrMortgageRadio.com. That's how you find us when you don't find us here. But guys, have an amazing week. If you need us, you know how to find us. Otherwise, we will be back next week right here. Same bat time, same bat station. Be good. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Are you in the market to buy or sell a home? Look no further than ReallyGreatAgents.com, your trusted source for top-tier real estate professionals. The Mr. Mortgage team has done the legwork for you, hand-selecting a national network of agents who are committed to delivering exceptional service and results. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned seller, these vetted agents will guide you through every step of the process. Visit ReallyGreatAgents.com today and connect with a truly great agent who's got your back. That's ReallyGreatAgents.com.
Have you recently gotten a mortgage approval and now you're wondering, how do you know if it's a good deal? I mean, the wrong decision can cost tens of thousands of dollars in fees and interest rate. Is any of this negotiable? Is this a good rate? Guys, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are happy at no cost or obligation to you to take a look at that fee sheet for you. We'll go line by line through it, and one of three things will happen. One, we may congratulate you on getting an awesome deal, and then you can exhale and move forward knowing you did great. Or two, we may be able to point out some places in that fee sheet that you can go back and renegotiate a better deal with your current lender. Or three, and guys, this one's my favorite, we may be able to offer you even a better deal, saving you in fees or interest rate or both. Guys, there's no obligation. Just go to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Click on that fee sheet review icon and we'll do the rest. It's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.